welcome to Graphana tutorial. So Graphana is an open source interactive analytics and as well as visualization tool. In the previous session we have seen Kibana with Elasticsearch, and in this tutorial we are going to look into Graphana with Prometheus Database. And this is a tool which provides graphics and as well as alert mechanism for the given endpoints. It's a most popular open source tool, and it mainly provides like visualizing the metrics of the application, log monitoring of the application from various endpoints. No matter what is the application, we are going to use and connect with the Graphana. Graphana uses the open source databases like all our time series databases like Graphite, Prometheus, Elasticsearch, and OpenTSDB and InfluxDB, etc. So why are we going with Graphana tool? Is mainly to monitor the main characteristics, key characteristics of the application. While the applications are deployed into the production environment, we can monitor the various resource utilization by the application, like RAM usage, number of requests coming in, the load entered into the application, storage space, and the number of exceptions getting raised. So we can create with various alert mechanism here so that we can monitor continuously the logs and as well as the endpoint characteristics. And we can also create with the alert triggering mechanism so that we can take action onto the application so that we can fix the problems in early stage before the application is going to crash. For example, if you create an alert so that it is triggering you so that the storage space is going 60%, so by the time the network administrator can take an action to fix this problem before it is getting crashed. That is how these visualization tools are helpful. And in the previous session we have seen ELK stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana tool. And in this tutorial we are going to look into Graphana tool. How do we configure and what is the database we are going to use? So Prometheus is a time series database we are going to use with Graphana dashboard, where it provides service discovery. It supports with the Kubernetes and other orchestration tools, and it does not require much configuration. It is not extensive setup needed. And Prometheus database, even if some parts of the application is broken, your infrastructure, even still it works with. It's a time series based database. It supports with the functional query language, Prometheus query language. We can perform with various aggregate operations. We can also perform with functions, subqueries, various operators are available. And this Prometheus database architecture is simple, easy to operate. And let us look into the sample application. Let's dive into the hands-on. So in official documentation, we find a sample application where you can download it. And before we start with this application, you guys make sure that your Docker desktop is running and your application you are able to work with Docker. Why? Because we are going to deploy the applications by using Docker container. So Docker is running, and then let us look into the application. So go to this URL where you can clone your application, the sample application. I'm just creating with a new folder. Where I would like to clone my application. You give the git clone command where we are going to get a sample application which is available on the official Graphana documentation. So it takes time to pull the code from your tutorial environment sample application, where you will find the application which is downloaded, and here it is configured with a simple Go application and with the Docker Compose configuration, and we can start running the application. So where we are going to create an endpoint, and then make sure that you are going to check with the containers which are running. So far we have not run with any kind of container here. So the next command we are going to do is we need to up the services which have been configured in our application by using Docker Compose. So let's make use of Docker Compose up this way. So where it is going to start up all the services which have been configured into your application. You guys can explore on this application. It takes time to configure your all the services available. Here you can see Docker Compose YAML file where it is configured with the number of services we are using into this. So here is we are going to pull an image called Prometheus Database image, and then we are going to configure with Prometheus YAML XML file, and we are going to deploy this Prometheus server on 9090 port number, and then we are also making use of another log monitoring tool called Loki, and this is also image we are going to pull by using Docker Compose, and then we are going to configure this. And Graphana dashboard we are going to deploy on 3000 port. So this is the sort of configuration we have in our application. So we are going to make all our services to be up and running. So make sure that you have started with your application, and once this is done, now you can see Docker is going to download all the required libraries for your application to run. Then Docker Compose PS you can see. So the applications which are running on the port, it is going to show you already. Actually, when you are doing it first time, it takes some time to pull all the images, and these the images which have been already downloaded into my system, so it is running immediately. But if you are doing it first time, it takes definitely some time. So here you can see the apps which are running with. So the Graphana on which port it is running, Prometheus on which port it is running, you can see 3000 and 9090. So the apps are started running with, and now you can just browse your sample application by checking with 8081 port. So where we can see when you are going to make sure that, like, when you start this application first time, so here is an application where you can give the title for the application and URL for the application, so that an application is getting created. So here is a simple application we wanted to create, which is Graphana News, and where the title we give example, and the URL for this particular application we would like to give, this is example, and this is the URL for your application, and then you can say submit. So that when an endpoint is just created with an application, a news application, where you can see here whenever you click on this, you can just increment the points. So this is what is an application pre-configured, just we are deploying it. Now we would like to monitor this application into our Graphana dashboard. So let's go to the Graphana, which is already configured with our Docker Compose. So it has been pulled into the system and it has been started. So we have seen Graphana is started already. So now let's check with the dashboard with the 3000 port. So now the Graphana dashboard, the visualization tool should be started with, where we can monitor our endpoints. We can pull the metrics coming from various endpoints and we can visualize in this tool, right? So how do we visualize? What is the endpoint we are going to give? When you start with this Grafana first time, it would be definitely asking you to choose the ID password, and then it will also prompt you to change the password. You guys can change it for first time. As it is done in my system, I am not doing that step. Now, how do we add the metrics to our application? So to add metrics of any of the endpoints, okay, it can be an application, it can be a third party API, any service you wanted to visualize its metrics and log monitoring you wanted to do, definitely we need a data source. So that is the type of the database we are going to use is Prometheus database. So this is a database which is a time series database which is used for pulling your APIs metrics coming from various applications, various services into Grafana dashboard, Grafana tool. So that is the Prometheus we need to configure here. So if you can go and check with the configuration where here when you first time when you start with your Grafana, when you go to configuration, here you can check with the data sources. In the data sources you can type like a Prometheus. So whenever you check it will be available, then you should just select it and click on add source. So it is already in my system, it's already added. So that is the data source you can add, like go to configuration icon and then add resource, add data source and click on Prometheus, and you need to just select with the Prometheus port number. So it has been already saved. Okay, now how do we check with the metrics of our application? So to check with the metrics of the application, now you go to the explore command where we have this is a explore. So go to the explore, and within this explore, here we need to give a query for Prometheus so that to configure our application and to monitor our application, to visualize our application. What is the query we need to pass, right? So that is a query given here to monitor your API, okay? So that you wanted to check with the status and the metrics of your endpoint. So you just select this and then go to your okay query box and then click on run query. Whenever you run this, you are able to monitor the metrics of your application which is running. So this is a Graphana news application which you have deployed on your Go language, and for which, let's say, whenever you wanted to just do some changes with your application, and similarly when you come over here and then you wanted to just okay visualize your application with the graphics, right? This is how you can visualize your endpoints, any API endpoints, by using Prometheus query language on Grafana dashboard. So this is the best visualization tool we have seen. In the previous session we have looked into ELK stack where Kibana dashboard we have used. Here this is an example for Grafana. And similar to this, various other query syntaxes you can give to check with your count and check with your what is the rate of change of your count. All those query parameters you can give and you can visualize. At the same time, you wanted to check with the log monitoring. How do we add a log monitoring? Here is a log data source we are going to use called Loki, and you will be using this Loki database for log monitoring, and we can look into that. So to add this Loki, once again go to the configuration, and here you can choose Loki here, and it is already added in my system. Once it is added, okay, like this is for running on 3001 port number. Now if you wanted to check with this port, now if you go, okay, this is the URL you need to configure, give the name, and then you just need to save and test. So once it is saved, okay, so the saved is done. So now we have added with, now to check with your log monitoring tool, okay, you just go to the explore button and then go for a query editor where you can give your log monitoring file location. So now again go to your explore. So here check with Loki and give your query syntax where you wanted to monitor your log for your application. So this is going to give you the log monitoring for your application. This is how you can visualize your APIs endpoints coming from any type of the application, any REST endpoints, and especially in microservices application, the multiple endpoints, if you wanted to visualize a timely manner and also log monitoring, can be done with this stack of tools. That's all.